If you were not paying intensely close attention to the exact way Anna held her posture when she finally walked out of that treatment facility in France, you completely missed the real story. If you ask me, we are currently looking at a highly dangerous, perfectly orchestrated psychological deadlock. The board is meticulously set, and our favorite residents of the town are nothing but vulnerable pawns in a terrifyingly massive shadow game. Do not let the sunny summer promotional materials fool you into a false sense of security. We are not just getting a few nostalgic, heartwarming homecomings this season. We are watching a calculated move by an organization that has spent decades perfecting the dark art of destroying lives from the inside out. The stakes have never been higher, and the illusion of safety is about to be shattered completely. Let us take a very long, hard look at Ross. For months it looks like he has been the man behind the curtain, the dirty agent pulling the strings with a smug, untouchable demeanor. He thrives on chaos, but he always keeps his own hands relatively clean, operating through proxies and double crosses. However, a man like Ross does not operate in a vacuum. His psychological motive is entirely rooted in absolute control and dominance over his adversaries. He views the people of the town not as human beings, but as variables in a massive, cold equation. But even a master manipulator needs a blunt instrument when the delicate threads of his web begin to snap. This brings us to the terrifying introduction of Harker. Now guys, we know the actor Matt is stepping into this highly anticipated role, and the casting alone implies a heavy, imposing physical and intellectual threat. If Ross is the treacherous architect of this impending misery, Harker is undoubtedly the ruthless executioner. It looks like the agency is no longer satisfied with just manipulating events from afar or sending anonymous threats. They are embedding their absolute most lethal operatives directly into the daily lives of our characters. Harker is fiercely, blindly loyal to Ross, which implies that this is not just official, sanctioned government business. This is a rogue, off-the-books vendetta masquerading as a legitimate operation. Harker is the kind of man who does not ask questions. He simply eliminates obstacles. Now, let us bring Anna back into this terrifying equation. She genuinely thought she was escaping the nightmare in France. She went through the grueling process of proving her sanity, fighting her way through the legal and medical red tape. But could it be that she was merely being transitioned from a padded, comfortable cell into a much larger, invisible cage? The shattered trust she must be feeling right now, deep in her soul, is unimaginable. She knows this agency inside and out. She practically built parts of it. When she realizes that her entire emotional breakdown and subsequent treatment might have been a calculated move by Ross to keep her off the board while he set up his lethal pieces, the unforeseen fallout will be absolutely catastrophic. Anna is not a woman who takes betrayal lightly, especially when it comes from the very institution she dedicated her life to, and who miraculously returns exactly when the invisible walls are closing in. Jason. Now, Jason is not one to just stumble into international espionage unless it directly, immediately threatens his people or his territory. But if you ask me, Jason's return is the universe providing Anna with the one weapon her enemies cannot accurately predict or control. Jason operates entirely outside the law, outside the agency's jurisdiction, and completely off the grid when he needs to. He does not play by the rules of espionage. He plays by the rules of survival. His presence introduces an element of pure, unadulterated chaos into Ross and Harker's perfectly structured plan. Let us take a moment to really analyze Jason's mindset coming into this absolute nightmare. Jason has always been the silent guardian, the man who stands in the shadows and absorbs the punishment so others do not have to. But coming back now, into a town infested with rogue government agents, requires a different kind of warfare. He cannot just shoot his way out of a federal investigation. He has to outthink a calculated move designed by people who write the laws. His usual methods of intimidation will not work on a man like Harker, who is likely trained to withstand extreme psychological and physical pressure. This implies that Jason will have to adapt, perhaps becoming more deceptive, more manipulative traits he usually despises. A potential partnership between Anna and Jason? That is a formidable, almost mythological alliance. But we cannot say for sure they will see eye to eye immediately. Both have severe trust issues. Both have been burned by the people they swore to protect. However, necessity makes for strange bedfellows. It looks like Jason might recognize the sheer magnitude of the threat Harker poses. Harker is not a mobster. He is a highly trained government killer. Jason will need Anna's intimate knowledge of agency protocols and Anna will need Jason's ruthless, uncompromising ability to execute a counterstrike. Together, they might be the only force capable of stopping the impending slaughter. And what exactly makes Harker so uniquely dangerous? If you ask me, it is his lack of personal connection to anyone in town. Most villains we see have a grudge, a history, or a broken heart that drives their madness. Harker has none of that. He is a blank slate of violence. He views our beloved characters as mere targets on a dossier. When he looks at Marshall, he does not see a grandfather, he sees collateral damage. When he looks at Trina, he does not see a brilliant young artist, he sees a pressure point to exploit. This chilling detachment is a psychological motive that cannot be reasoned with. You cannot negotiate with a man who feels absolutely nothing. While the heavy hitters are dealing with international spies and rogue agents, we have the domestic front, which is just as vulnerable, if not more so. Marshall is coming home. He is returning to welcome the beautiful new baby, a rare moment of pure, unadulterated joy for his deeply stressed family. But as we all know too well, joy is usually just bait for a trap in this town. Could it be that Ross and Harker are targeting the hospital, the doctors, or the innocent families to apply unbearable leverage on their true targets? Marshall has fought so hard for his mental health and his family's stability. The idea that his homecoming could be tainted by the looming shadow of a rogue government operation is heartbreaking, but it fits perfectly with the agency's cruel methodology. We also must deeply consider the profound impact this will have on Marshall. He has fought so incredibly hard to manage his mental health, to build a solid foundation of trust with his family, and to finally embrace the joy of being a grandfather to a new baby. The arrival of a new life is supposed to symbolize hope, but the presence of the agency, lurking in the shadows, threatens to rip that hope away. If Marshall senses that his family is being watched or targeted by Harker's operatives, the stress could trigger a severe crisis. He might feel compelled to take matters into his own hands to protect the baby, stepping far outside his comfort zone and directly into the line of fire. The shattered trust in the safety of his own home could push him to make a tragic, irreversible decision. Then we have the younger generation, who are entirely oblivious to the invisible war being waged around them. Trina has been trying so desperately to focus on her art, her upcoming gallery premiere, and her budding, complicated relationship with Kai. She has repeatedly asked her family to stop making her the center of their endless drama. But suddenly, Quinn is back in the picture, disrupting everything. On the surface, it looks like a standard, messy, emotionally charged teenage love triangle. Quinn causing friction and jealousy between Kai and Trina seems like typical young adult angst. We have seen it a million times before. But dig deeper, ladies. What if Quinn has a massive, terrifying, ulterior motive? What if Quinn is not just a jealous ex or a confused teenager, but is actually secretly on Harker's payroll? If you ask me, using a teenager's messy romance to infiltrate a prominent family connected to the police commissioner in the hospital is a classic, textbook espionage tactic. Young people are emotional, impulsive, and easily manipulated. If Harker is pulling Quinn's strings, promising something in return for gathering intel on Trina and her family, the entire dynamic of the younger cast changes from a soap opera romance into a high-stakes psychological thriller. So, how does this incredibly complex web of lies and danger actually play out? Let us break it down into two distinct, highly plausible possibilities. We will call the first one Scenario A, the direct confrontation. In this scenario, it looks like Anna completely drops the fragile facade the very moment her plane lands on American soil. She bypasses her family, bypasses the local police department, and goes straight into the darkest shadows to find Jason. She knows deep down that relying on official channels will only alert Ross to her awareness. This implies that Anna and Jason will immediately form a rogue, two-person strike team to dismantle Harker's operation from the absolute bottom up. In this aggressive path, we could see Anna and Jason systematically hunting down Harker's informants one by one. This aggressive strategy would potentially expose Quinn's double life very quickly. This would lead to a massive, heartbreaking, unforeseen fallout for Trina, as she realizes her entire personal life, her romance with Kai, and her friendship with Quinn was nothing but a cruel agency setup. The psychological devastation for Trina would be immense, completely derailing her art premiere and her sense of reality. However, it would also serve as the ultimate catalyst for the younger characters to wake up and join the fight. The shattered trust would ripple through the entire town, forcing everyone, including Marshall, to pick a side and arm themselves for a literal war in the streets. On the other hand, we have Scenario B, The Trojan horse. Could it be that Anna pretends she is completely unaware of the trap waiting for her? She might walk back into town playing the role of the fragile, traumatized, recovering woman who just wants peace. This calculated move would be a masterclass in deception, allowing her to slowly draw Ross and his attack dog, Parker, out into the open. In this scenario, Jason might act as her hidden, silent muscle, staying entirely out of sight, while Anna plays the vulnerable bait. She would let Ross believe he has won, feeding his massive ego while secretly mapping out his entire network of spies. Meanwhile, in scenario B, Parker, feeling overconfident and untouchable, might push Quinn way too hard to manipulate Kai and Trina. Parker might demand more intel than a teenager can safely provide, causing Quinn to panic and make a fatal mistake. This would cause the teenagers to realize something is horribly wrong on their own, without Anna's intervention. If Marshall gets caught in the crossfire while trying to protect Trina or the new baby from Harker's desperate agents, it could force a terrifying public standoff at the hospital or the gallery. This implies a slow burn, agonizing psychological thriller where absolutely no one knows who is working for whom, and every single casual conversation is laced with a deadly, ulterior motive. Imagine the sheer horror if scenario B unfolds during Trina's highly anticipated gallery premiere. She has poured her entire soul into this art show, trying to create a space of beauty amidst the constant chaos of her parents' lives. The gallery is supposed to be her sanctuary, but if Harker decides that the premiere is the perfect public venue to spring his trap, the juxtaposition of beautiful art and brutal violence would be devastating. Could it be that Quinn is instructed to plant something at the gallery? A listening device, or worse, evidence to frame Kai or Trina for a federal crime? The unforeseen fallout of turning a place of culture into a crime scene would leave scars on Trina that might never fully heal. The thematic weight of this storyline cannot be overstated. We are looking at a generational clash. You have the seasoned veterans like Anna and Jason, who have bled for this town for decades, facing off against a faceless, bureaucratic monster represented by Ross and Harker. And caught in the middle are the innocents, Marshall just wanting to hold a new baby, Trina just wanting to showcase her art, and Kai just trying to navigate young love. The agency does not care about art or babies or love. They care about leverage. If Harker is truly as ruthless as the casting suggests, he will not hesitate to put a gun to the head of the youngest, most vulnerable residents to force Anna and Jason into a corner. Ultimately, we cannot know for absolute certain who will survive this impending summer of deception and violence. If you ask me, the introduction of a relentless, physical threat like Harker means that someone we deeply love is going to pay a very heavy, potentially permanent price. Anna and Jason might be absolute legends in their own right, but even legends bleed when the shattered trust comes from within their own trusted ranks. Will they manage to outsmart Ross's intricate web, or are they just walking blindly deeper into a maze designed specifically to break their minds and bodies once and for all? I suppose we will all just have to keep our eyes wide open, question every single motive, and trust absolutely no one as the shadows grow longer.